of work. As you know, work will take up a majority of your life throughout your life. And work also is, leisure is another part of the work aspect, which between the two of them, it's very important that we understand the relationship between our ability to have optimal mental health and the ability to complete the Adlerian task of work. As you remember, there are 5 Adlerian tasks, 3 that were proposed by Adler himself and 2 from the newer Adlerians. Love, work, and relationship were the first 3, and then relationship with self and relationship with the cosmos or spirituality are the last 2. So we've talked a lot about each one of these, and we're also going to be talking in detail tonight about the task of work. So let's go right to the PowerPoint. And okay, good. So the name of this presentation is The Courage to Work, Meaning, Purpose, and the Discovery of Awe. What courage does it take to work? We have to work. What courage does it take to do it? To go beyond just going to work or just providing for basic survival, as we'll see in a minute. It takes courage to first ask and then listen to the soul. Or in the words of Parker Palmer, there's 3 quotes in tonight's lecture that are directly from Parker Palmer. Now, this is the first one. Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. I must listen for the truths and the values at the heart of my own identity, not by the standards by which I must live, but by the standards by which I cannot help but live. So this gets right to the purpose and the meaning of our inner values and how we listen to that in terms of representative in how we become who we become in the world of work, but also in life is very related to this. So it takes courage to listen to our soul. And let us not cheapen our work by using work to provide us only money. Money for more than what we need for survival is but a token, a simple way to keep score in a game of vapid emptiness or extreme materialism. Or maybe worse yet, to provide us status. There will always be those ahead and behind us, and like a drug to a drug addict, gaining more status is never enough. And I think we all know people who fall into that category. The courage of work is about what stirs the soul. It's soul work. Soul work is not for the weak-hearted or for the timid, but for those who desire to be a part of something more substantial than chasing the wind of money or status, to be a part of something much greater than themselves. So now this is a shade or a hint of the importance of social interest in terms of the courage to work. In the words of a Lebanese American poet, Khalil Gibran, work is love made visible. And if we cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it's better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms of those who work with joy. Very strong statement. During the pandemic, over 4 million American workers, mostly in their 20s and 30s, voluntarily gave up their often highly sought after positions because their work provided little meaning to them. In a recent scientific poll, 9 out of 10 middle-class American workers would willingly change positions for lower pay if the new position provided more meaning. So we've been talking about all semester social interest. We've been talking about purpose and meaning. And once again, both of them are very much a part of tonight's lecture. Meaning making in work. It is meaning that most of us want in our work. Let us pause and consider for 30 seconds, what is your dream job? Then ask, Will this dream job provide me just status and money, or will it provide meaning? Meaning making in work does not begin with your position, it begins with you. Understanding your identity, understanding your willingness to be able to make compromises when needed to have a more meaningful and purposeful opportunity to work, not just status or not just for money, but that meaning making. And I think that's going to be the competition in the market in the future, is positions that help provide that. Social interest requires from us cooperation and contribution. We've talked about that. This is the fourth time we've talked about that, I believe. Social interest and self-interest are not compatible. A high level of social interest provides meaning and purpose to our lives, provides a way of being in a world that is often, so often of late, angry and divisive. So when we have a high degree of social interest, just by the nature of what social interest is, the undergirding of social interest is in part that discovery or that desire to discover or that moving towards meaning and purpose. And also, as we've said before, I think a high level of social interest is like an inoculation or vaccination in a world that is often so angry and divisive. I think a high level of social interest gives us a degree of protection and again, via meaning and purpose. The work we do, supervising, caring, helping others, teaching, is perfectly made for the development of high level of social interest. And yet we may often feel estranged from our work. Maybe the work is too much, or we feel unprepared or unappreciated, or we're often on edge, or we feel uncertain, or we feel discouraged. To find meaning in our work, we must ask the following question: is our identity compatible with our work? And what is our identity? The difficulty of this is a second Parker Palmer quote. The difficulty of this is compounded by the fact that from our first days in schools, we are taught to listen to everything and everyone but ourselves, to take all our clues about living from people and powers around us. And so when we start to integrate our own identity into the identity of those that are around us, that integration is more complete. And our decisions then are more complete because they also include us. So what are we to do? During this semester, we're exploring two different ways. First, find meaning in our life and our work is not a destination, but it's a process. So is discovering our identity. So it's not a one-time thing. Through the different stages of life, we have different rationale and different meanings that we make of our life. And so it has to be reassessed as to define this meaning and also in discovering, continuing to discover who we are. It's not a one-time deal. What are some of the ways that we do this? Well, as I just mentioned, two ways that you're exploring this semester. The first one is the what does living a life that matters mean to us exercise that you did. So that's a good way, I think, of kind of starting the exploration, getting into the exploration, and thinking about some of the big questions of our life, the existential type of questions, those questions that are in relationship to ourself and a relationship to our cosmos, Adlerian tasks. Another helpful method is to learn what your values are by doing a value sort. And in the next month or so, you'll have a full understanding of how to do that and how to integrate that into your own meaning of your and identity of yourself. Understanding our identity can provide us a clear path to making meaning of our work. But it is the purpose that gives us the courage and the power to overcome adversity and obstacles related to workplace challenges. So there's always going to be a myriad of workplace challenges that we have to overcome. And that's just the nature of workplace culture. However, understanding our identity can provide us a clear path to making meaning of our work. And by doing this, it gives us purpose so that we have the courage to overcome adversity and obstacles that are inevitable and oftentimes are in the workplace. Some people choose just to quit and find a different job, and they kind of end up repeating the same pattern because it's incomplete what they need to be doing. That's incomplete in the compatibility of the position and their identity, purpose, and meaning. Although a paraphrase from a famous Nietzsche quote in Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. So when we know the purpose of why we are doing the work that we're doing, we'll see clear and how to overcome workplace difficulties. Ambivalence is that nagging voice that is designed to signal us something is not right. So ambivalence in our work is very common, and you can kind of think about it in terms of cycles. There'll be a time in our work life where there's a lot of energy, a lot of creativity, just a lot of happiness, and maybe even joy comes from our work. Then at other times, there's a feeling of stagnation. There's a feeling of dread. There's a feeling of incompatibility. And yet it was the same position. What changed? Well, it could be a lot of things that changed, including yourself. But the point is that in our work life, there's going to be many times that ambivalence is part of the equation. And so for the next few slides, I'm going to give you some ways of thinking about ambivalence that will probably occur at some time in your work life if it hasn't already. So ambivalence is that nagging voice that is designed to signal us something is not right. Ambivalence is a symptom, much like a fever is a symptom. But what is ambivalence a symptom of? Oops, wrong one. When we love what we do, and we generally know we're making a difference in the lives of those we are fortunate enough to work with, and yet we often feel unsatisfied or uncertain, this is the ambivalence. Ambivalence is that signal is something that we are doing is not totally comfortable or compatible. Something is not quite right. Ambivalence is quietly, or often not so quietly, the voice inside us telling us something must change. Yes, ambivalence in life is normal, and I think very normal in doing the work that we do. So, and then a couple of examples which may be helpful for you. Can I totally love my partner, but at the same time feel that they are a stranger? So that would be that ambivalence, that nagging ambivalence that a person might feel. Can I love my work and yet often feel estranged or disconnected from it? Well, of course. And as I mentioned, ambivalence is normal. But ambivalence is also uncomfortable and requires more than just symptom relief. It requires action or attention. When ambivalence is present, we have but two choices. Not unlike when we're at that fork in the road, we can go straight or we can turn. Our choice often is so temporarily quiet. Our choice often is to temporarily quiet the voice by continuing on the same path. And that is a choice that will provide some relief, but only for a time. Or we can take courage and make the important change the ambivalence is crying out for us to make. No, the change we crave is not leave our position or our partner, although many might see that as their option. Remember, we love our work. We love our partner. We would not be who we are without it. And yet, some people take that as the only option. And yet, the uncertainty and the demands and our often lack of confidence are telling us our love is not real or sustaining, and that we're not suited for this work. So we find reasons that we're unsatisfied. What change is the ambivalence demanding? What is most needed at times like this is not a smaller, easier job, or even a different job, or a shot of confidence, or more understanding supervisor, or better colleagues, or more cooperative clients. Although all these would be helpful and pleasant, these are also most likely not to happen. The answer to the change we need to bring that love back into our work, even with our doubts and uncertainty, is rediscovering our purpose. When we can reimagine our why and feel the power of our purpose, we'll be able to endure the uncertainty and overcome the messiness that is often part of the world of work. It is the purpose of our work that is found in our very soul that gets us through the most difficult times. It is the rediscovery of the why we do this work that gets us out of bed in the morning and with a wanting and a desire to make a difference. Okay, I'm going to stop at this point, and we'll continue shortly. Okay, we're back. Let's go right to the next slide. So we said if we can reimagine, this is the second bullet on the slide. I want to reiterate it as we work towards the other slides. When we can reimagine our why and feel that power of our purpose, we'll be able to endure the uncertainty and overcome the messiness that is often part of our work. So again, there's going to be some ebb and flow in terms of the energy positive, the energy negative, but we can control a lot of the meaning of that and make it a good experience for us. It is the purpose of our work that is found in our very soul that gets us through these difficult times. It is the rediscovery of the why we do this work that gets us out of bed in the morning with a wanting and a desire to make a difference. And do we make a difference? Sometimes we might wonder, but just because the change we are a part of and facilitate is not always visible or present, does not mean it's not happening. Sometimes we're just the seed planter. And again, as we revisit our purpose or the why we do the work, we will know we do make a difference. So as a supervisor working with individuals, you may work with them for a few years and maybe never see them again, and yet you planted some seeds that were very instrumental or important throughout their life. And that's what we should be thinking ourselves as being is in terms of social interest. How can we be the seed planter? Let us not be fearful of the ambivalence, but hear it for what the ambivalence is, a request for us to remember what originates from the soul. It is the purpose of our work. So again, if we can go back and make that good match between who we are as a person, deep in our soul, who we are as a family member, who we are as a community member, and make that our soul work of purpose, then of course we will remember what originates from the soul, and that we will repurpose and rediscover as we face adversity and go through our lifespan. And also it's critical to remember that we are not alone, but also critical in our overcoming is the remembering that our way forward is not just by our own devices, but also guided by the power much greater than our own. That same power that stirred your soul, that moved you to do this work. So once again, when we can reconnect with what stirred our soul for us to go in the directions that we are going, the desire, the meaning that we put to it, and if it's from our identity and it's from our soul, then it's a good match. Even though you may think that it was just happenstance that you were here doing this work, perhaps it was part of a design that we do not know, except in those quiet times when the voice of the soul tells a different story. And it is not the same voice that gently reminds us, and is it not the same voice that gently reminds us of our purpose? We're not alone in this journey of the soul. And the outcome of our labors and the overcoming is beyond our imagination. The work gives precious opportunity to those who, without your assistance, would experience a life of much greater difficulty. And this we know, but sometimes forget. The purpose of our work is greater than ourselves. So when again, no matter what the capacity, whether we're teaching, helping people, leading people, supervising people, whatever our place is in the work hierarchy, if we can remember this, that overcoming and the outcome of our labors and our overcoming is beyond our imagination, this work gives precious opportunities to those who, without our assistance, would experience a life with much greater difficulty. And this we know, but we sometimes forget. The purpose of our work is greater than ourselves. And so the key, of course, with social interest is being able to understand how we are contributing to the larger and the greater good. And we can do this in so many ways as we define who we are in the workplace. And what is our reward for doing this work? That is the work of the soul. There are many days I did wonder if there was a reward for my labor, but I was taught that our rewards may not always be visible. And I've learned that this is so with our kind of work. But I've also learned that this work provides opportunity for profound transformation of not just those we are privileged to work with, but also ourselves. I believe that this profound transformation may not always look so profound, but for the same reason, we will sometimes doubt, we will not feel or appreciate the transformation that is present. But when we step back, take a deep breath, and remember our purpose for doing this work, are we not moved? So again, it goes back to purpose and meaning and our identity. When we do this, we experience awe. Now, I'll talk more detail about awe. I think it's the last lecture that I do at the end of the semester. And so we're introducing the topic of awe now. And awe is an outcome of a working towards a way of experiencing the world in a most positive way. Awe isn't always positive, as I will share with you later in the semester. Awe can be negative as well. But nonetheless, we're still going to be able to understand and experience the world in a very different way, almost a different level of consciousness. So when we do this, we experience awe. Awe cannot be easily defined, but I believe it is always present if we just know where, and I would add how, to look. Experiencing awe can be like purpose and identity. It is sometimes missing in action. So, in the heat of battle, as our life becomes complicated, as things aren't going the way that we anticipated, the messiness of life, the messiness of getting older, whatever the messiness is, sometimes we'll create an experience in which we're in a feedback loop that's very tiny. Go to work, go to work, go to work, go home, go home, go to work, go home, commute, 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 commute. It's all about this just almost a treadmill, almost a survival mentality. But even then, we can experience awe, but it's always easy in those times of difficulty for us to forget. So in our business, it's too easy for awe to be subsumed by messy reality. But be rest assured, awe is ever present if we just let it be. So, what is awe? To me, it is the humility and wonder and amazement of living. It is the calm in an ocean of this turbulent and divisive world. Awe provides balance, reason, and reward. So, this is the end of today's lecture, and I'm going to leave you again with the words of Parker Palmer. Our deepest calling is to reason and reward. Awe provides balance. It is the calm in an ocean of this turbulent and divisive world. Awe provides balance, reason, and reward. So this is the end of today's lecture, and I'm going to leave you again with the words of Parker Palmer. Our deepest calling is to grow into our own authentic selfhood, whether or not it conforms to some image of who we ought to be. As we do so, we will not only find the joy that every human being seeks, we'll also find our path of authentic service in the world. So it becomes a positive feedback loop. The more we give, the more we get, the more we give, the more we get. And it broadens out the perspective of what it means to be a human and what it means to be fully integrated with family, community, and self. And so I think Adler had it right that our work relationship, or our work life, our relationships, our love, and then the newer concepts of relationship of self and relationship with the cosmos or spirituality. These are all tasks that are best understood and best fulfilled with the sense of who we are with social interest. And so again, the optimal mental health comes from a high degree of social interest, of being able to discover awe, to be able to get through the difficulties of the world of work, to be able to express ourselves, our identity and who we are in the world of work, even though it may be circumstance or happenstance that we think provides us that opportunity. In fact, when we self-care and bring our identity into the equation, then we find the ways to be able to discover awe and to be productive, to be cooperative, and to be able to contribute to the welfare of others as well. So I know we went through this fairly fast. I do hope you have an opportunity to reflect on it when we come back and talk about values a little bit later in the semester. We'll kind of bring all this together one more time, and so we have a sense of the importance of Adler, importance of social interest in our personhood and who we are as both a worker but also as a supervisor. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you got what I intended for you to get from this. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. I think it's time to have a break. After a break, 10-minute break, and we can come back and have some little discussion. So see you in 10 minutes.